You're not good enough, but you know that's not true. There is a secret power hidden in your soul. Don't be afraid to use it, 'cause you're the one.
Black people.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.
Greetings, humanoids. Welcome back to Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I will be Patrick Smith, and today we bring you a special guest that will be helping me end my chance of any future gainful employment. Angel Robinson is the VP of Marketing at Flote, an organizer for Anarchapulco 2020 and Future Frontiers, co-host of the Conversation in Anarchy series, Dreamcaster at Civil X, and speaker at Anarcho Vegas this July. Welcome to the show, Angel.
Hey, Patrick. I am so glad to be here today at the end of your career. I'm going to hold your hand through it.
Yes, thank you. So, you sent me a message. You sent me a message on Facebook, and you were like, hey, yo, Patrick, do you want to talk with me about black people on your show? And my first instinct was, hell yeah! Wait, what? But before we get into that, I have to ask you, how did you become an anarchist?
Okay, so I've answered this question so many times, and I think maybe I might even be wanting to shift it a little bit. I am an anarchist, and I like to explain what that means to people. So sometimes I think I want to use a different word, like voluntarist or something, but I believe that people ought to have autonomy and be able to shape their own world, and they should be able to do that without the violence of the state imposing upon them, and the violence of their neighbors. And so that's what I am, is a person who really values your freedom and your story and what you want to make of your story. And so it's really interesting that I came to this position through politics and through listening to Ron Paul talk about government and freedom. And, he shifted my perspective from one of looking at the world, just wanting order out of the world and accepting the stories that people were telling me about the world and the solutions they were giving me. And he shifted my perspective to one of a more thoughtful perspective of really understanding the world, understanding people, and figuring out why they do the things that, they don't hate us over there because of our freedoms. They hate us because of our policy. That really struck a chord with me. It was like, boom, I'm in a new world. I can think about this a different way. And that means that the solutions we come up with are going to be different. They're going to engage people in a different way. I know Ron Paul has done that for a lot of people. And then that just led me on, so many different streams of exploration into economics and philosophy, politics, and all kinds of things. So, and here I am today.
Well, I'm glad to have you. I think the first time we met was several years ago now at the Voluntarists of Austin meetup group, I think, right? Yeah, that was the first time we met.
That was, yeah, absolutely. It was some other conference, and I didn't go to the conference, but I met you afterwards at one of the Voluntarist meetups. So good way to meet good people.
And of course, that group sort of inspired me to create the Voluntarists of Dallas-Fort Worth meetup group, which has grown massively. There's a huge group of awesome people there. So if you guys don't have a group of voluntarists wherever you live, you should definitely look at creating that, because it's like coming home when you get to go and surround yourself by awesome people. My talk in 2019 Anarchapulco was about how to do that. So if you want to go check out that video, just search for it or something like that. So, okay. You wanted to talk about black people. I have no idea what that really means. What do you want to talk about? Let me just give the complete floor to you, and you can tell us where we should go with it.
So, I sent that message to you, and I was being facetious a little bit. I love to bring humor into everything, right? And also to be radically honest about things. And I feel very much in a climate right now where race is, part of the main discussion, and there are a lot of voices out there and a lot of perspectives, and some of them I don't agree with, but I want to be a part of the discussion, and I want to be a part of the discussion in a really honest way. And that's really why I reached out to you, because one of the things I value about your show and just the way I've seen you operate in the world is that there's curiosity, there's question, there's a back and forth ideas, and it feels very honest. It feels very honest. And I think that's what we need right now. I'm looking at my friends and people in the world and the way that they're interacting with each other, and they're putting these boundaries around each other such that no one can really get to the truth of things. And I don't think that's how we make things better. So that's why I reached out to you.
I'm honored that you had that observation of me. That's my life motto. I wear it on my wrist. It's right here. I take it off for shows, but it says, "We veri universum vivus vincam," which means by the power of truth, I will save the world. And so it's kind of like my life motto. I want to know as many true things as I can, and I want to know as few false things as I can. And that requires conversations exactly like this. So I'm excited to have it.
Exactly. Yeah, I got my crew, but truth is what I want. That's becoming one of my mantras. So yeah, let's talk about Black people.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, okay, the Black Lives Matters in the room, that's really what's most present, I think, for everybody, is that whole movement. And I guess we're trying to figure out what it means and what it means for us individually, and how we engage with that thing. How do we engage with, the major consciousness stream that's going on right now in a way that's authentic to us, that feels genuine, as opposed to just getting caught in the flow of other people's thoughts and narratives. And so that's kind of what I've been thinking about and what I want to do today. So let me ask you a question first. How are you feeling? Is this present in your day? What do you think about what's going on?
I think I want to let the audience know that I have no idea what she's about to bring up. I specifically did not. I specifically told her I didn't want to burn the content, and I wanted any reactions to be real time. So you have to give me a minute to think about the questions that you ask. I think it only exists in my life in a real sense because I subject myself to the news cycle for the purposes of making content. I don't have any real life friends that are involved in a lot of the Black Lives Matter type movements. Most of the activists in Dallas haven't been out marching on the streets, with Antifa or BLM or any of that stuff. They're just trying to live their lives. So I guess to answer your question is, unless I went out and looked for it in the media, which might be an important point, maybe it only exists to a large degree in the media. It's not part of my life.
That's powerful. That's a powerful statement.
Why?
Hear it again, people. Hear it again. This is really one of the things that's present for me, is how much of the negative things that we experience in our lives, how much of it comes from someplace else and not our own experience. And that's not to say I don't want to take away anyone else's experiences. I'm sure people are experiencing racism. I'm sure people are experiencing the riots and those things. But I had this moment of a couple of months ago, maybe, where I was reading something. It was during the coronavirus, that portion of, I feel like we're going through these stages. And that was really prevalent was the coronavirus narrative. And I was listening to like a libertarian news source, and he was spinning a narrative about all the things that were happening. And I was like having this rising sense of anxiety in me about, you know, like he's got the documents and he's showing me everything that's happening in the world. And just having really negative feelings about it. But I had this like boom moment of, but like, wait a minute, I'm okay. I'm okay. Nothing's happening right now. I stepped outside. Nothing was happening. My daughter was playing outside. And it dawned on me that so much of the negativity in my world really has to do with engaging with other people's narratives, other people's stories, and making those more important than my present experience of the world. And then beyond that, engaging with those narratives was setting the stage for how I interact with people in the world, for the perceptions, for the preconceptions that I bring to any interaction. And so when I think about Black Lives Matters and what it has the possibility to do, and it has the possibility to do a lot of things, if people are really intentional, I think what it can do is create an environment where people really latch on to the idea of being victimized, latch on to the idea that there is a system out there which they cannot get out of, which is against them. You can definitely do that. They can move it in a different direction, but it means that we have to be really intentional about what the message, the Black Lives Matters message is. For me, it's a message I want to get away from because it does create division. I think it creates division. Maybe there's a way for it to create unity, right? If we can take all of that energy that's in that movement and go, yeah, Black lives do matter for sure. Like, because all lives matter and we're in this together. And I know that it's hard to say that right now because there's a reaction that we have to that as if we're invalidating someone else's experience or their pain and saying that it does but you know, I think if we are going to create any real change in the world, it's going to be together. And it's going to be validating each other's pain and stories and not suppressing it. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now is that our pain matters, whoever our is. And it's, you know, whoever feels like they fit into that. Our pain matters, but your pain doesn't matter. It's our time to have attention. And I would like to move away from that and say all of our pain matters. We are all in pain. We're all experiencing the difficulty of existing and overcoming and moving forward. And so let's try to do that together. Let's try to create stories together that help us do that.
My brain has been split since the beginning of what you said when you were talking about the degree to which this stuff only affects us because we sort of are exposed to the media about it. And so I was trying to pay attention to the rest of that awesome stuff that you were saying, but I was having sort of an epiphany, just kind of running down the list of, it feels like, I'm trying to come up with a word for what it is. It's like a hologram. It feels like a lot of the demons that are out there right now are holograms. They're not tangible. They don't exist. It's just we're seeing the pictures of them constantly, like hypnotically, and the existence of those pictures is having a real effect that then manifests as real problems. And so we're dealing with the real problems as if they were the hologram instead of as if they are the mirror, sort of the mirror image or the projection or the effects of the hologram. I don't even know if any of that made any sense, but it's like, I'm looking at like people's reactions to COVID now. It's just insane. And that is sort of fighting against what people perceive is an incredible threat. But I bet if I asked most people in my life, like, do you know anybody that was affected? You know, I think most people would say no. And so your question is just making me sort of file through everything that's happening in my life right now. It's a great question just to see like how much of what I'm sort of upset about or fighting against is the shadow cast by the media and by, sort of these people in charge of the holograms.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good question, and it's something we should all ponder. And I've been pondering that a lot lately. How much of this is really when I think about my life, like actual life right in front of me, there are some challenges, but for the most part, I'm not experiencing all of the war and the fear. And some people are. I do not want to take that away from anyone. My understanding is that some people are. But I need to act in the world from where I am, right? If I can start right where I am and then spread that out. But if I get into a state where I'm living in all of these other stories, and that's affecting how I interact with people. For instance, let's just say, and I think this is a good one for the Anarchast audience, right? Like the sentiment of, and also for the Black Lives Matters audience, is like the sentiment of police as the villain, right? If you believe that the state is out to get you, like it exists to get you, and of course there are problems with the state, I'm an anarchist, but if you believe that they're out to get you, and a police officer stops you, pulls you over, and you believe he is an agent of the state and he's out to get you because of that, the way that you interact with that other human being is going to be significantly different than if you just had a present moment interaction with someone and you were having a conversation and you were creating something instead of going down a path that's been created for you. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, you can very much create an enemy out of nothing. You can project your demons into reality. That seems like the theme of what we're talking about here. It's like,
yeah,
and that's not to discount like of course the ethics of the police and what they do and how they get paid and blah blah blah. Yeah, we got that, but you can still choose how you behave in that moment and what you bring into existence in the other person, what you bring out of the other person, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and like there's some empowerment for you. What you bring out of the other person, that is a possibility. How you engage with someone can transmute or change the shape of an interaction. I truly believe this. But again, like what's the story that you tell yourself? And to bring it back to Black Lives Matters, racism is a thing. People, like everybody doesn't like you and they have all kinds of reasons for not liking you. But how can you interact with someone who doesn't like you? You can, like to take a minute to understand their experience. Think about the fact that however they've come to this racist view or whatever their view is, they've come through their own experiences, and you don't know what those experiences are, right? So trying to gain some understanding about how you even got where you are, like who are you? Who are you and how have you gotten here? And how can I be part of giving you a different vision, a different perspective? And that's really how I view all of my interactions with people, particularly as a woman who has brown skin. It's like, I don't care if you're racist. I don't know what led you to that. I don't know what your experience is, and I'm not trying to invalidate that. But here I am in front of you, and you can receive who I am and what I am, and I'm going to be open to receiving you as well. Like, right, it takes two to tango. You need to play that part in your interactions too, in order to actually change something. I do not think that you change things by stepping on people, by invalidating their experience, by making them the villains. I mean, I've been there, I've done that, but I don't think that works. I think what we really need to do is reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. You know what I mean? Just reach out and touch people in a way that shows them something beautiful that they want to accept. Yeah,
the story of my life for the past, I don't know how many years since I became an anarchist, has been untraining my brain out of collectivism and starting to see, it's like a pet peeve. It's like a short circuit that I've created in my brain that throws a red flag. Anytime I hear somebody say like adjective people or blah, blah, blah community, it's like, unless you're just talking about like a few friends, whatever you say after those words almost certainly doesn't fit all of the people in the group that you're talking about. And so it's like this huge red flag for me when somebody says I used to sword fight, and I remember somebody said, you know, the people of the sword fighting community, blah, 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 don't like that or wouldn't stand for that or what. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not part of that. I'm not part of that collective. I sword fight, but it's like, and that's for something, that's a voluntarily chosen adjective or attribute about myself. Like, I am interested in sword fighting. I sword fought. I chose to get involved in that. But then to do that for something that you're just born with, for an attribute you had no volition in making a part of your identity, it's not about inclusivity. It's about exclusivity. It's about excluding people that don't agree with whatever you're applying to the adjective community, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's like this manipulation. It's like a super powerful, subtle manipulation. You're talking about taking an attribute that no one chose, something that you're born with, something that's part of your body and your existence in the world, and then saying, in I guess in the case of black people, it would be like the black community will not feels this way about that thing. And so if you are black and don't feel that way about that thing, then what they're doing is manipulating you into either feeling uncomfortable in your own skin or agreeing with them. Mm-hmm. That is dangerous manipulation. That is evil. That is powerful stuff.
Yeah, and that's your projection. Like, that's like you're taking your worldview, and let's assume you actually hold this worldview and aren't just using it to manipulate people, but like, that's your perception of the world, and your perception of the world is not necessarily my perception of the world. I hear a lot of people talking about the black community, and I assume that they include me in that community because my skin is brown, but I'm not, like, what you're saying isn't resonating with me. I know it does resonate with some people who have brown skin, and that's fine. But don't speak for all of us. I can speak for myself. Don't project your story onto everyone. Because the truth is, I don't feel oppressed, or not necessarily because of my skin. Actually, I don't know that I feel oppressed at all. But like, I might view like taxation as oppression, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't view race. I don't perceive a system out there that is against me because of the color of my skin. I have individual data points of people who I have had racist experiences, but those experiences haven't been so meaningful for me that it has stopped me from accomplishing things. It's just one data point. It's just another data point, and there are so many data points. And that's what's present for me is I can choose my story. I can choose. There's an infinite number of data points out there in the world, and I can just choose the ones that create a really good story for me. And what I'm realizing is that, wow, I can live in that story. I can feel that story. That story is my reality. And to the extent that we can be empowered to understand that we can create our realities through choosing the right data points, we can create a really, really beautiful world together. And I think, so I want to hear everybody's story, and I want to take the most beautiful parts of their stories and integrate it into my own. But if you're going to tell me that I need to feel like a victim or that I'm oppressed, if you want that to be part of my story, I just don't feel that. I don't feel that. And I don't want anybody else to feel it. I don't want my son to think he lives in a world, my black son, whatever that means to you, but, my son with brown skin, I don't want him to wake up thinking that there's a world out there that is against him. No, because if he takes that belief onto himself, it is going to be limiting. I mean, for some people it might not be, but I can see how a whole swath of people could believe that, and then it would make it harder for them to push past the natural limitations that everybody comes across, no matter what color your skin is, right? So,
yeah, I had some other notes, but I'm like reevaluating if they're even applicable anymore because of the thing you said in the beginning. Like, am I just railing against holograms or shadows? Like, is this real, or am I just upset with what I'm told exists in the world, but that I haven't actually experienced? Maybe something is worth talking about. I'm reevaluating my whole life right now. Thanks.
It's worth talking about because we've all had the same thoughts. So if we work through those, it's all worth talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we were at Luis's birthday party recently, and I brought up the the thing that I had heard. Is it Eric or Weinstein? It was on Joe. Yeah, and it was sort of the racism of the gaps, and I guess we can get into that. But again, like I think that's just talking about the shadow. I don't know anybody in real life that does this stuff. So when I'm talking about like these race baiters or the people that are looking for racism where it doesn't exist, or the supply of racism is not meeting the demand, so they're having to create it out of nothing. Who does that? I don't know anyone. The only place I see that happening is like in the news or on media or on Twitter. Yeah. So I mean, is that worth talking about? Is it like it seems like these organizations that, and this is a theme. This is definitely what happens, and so this is worth talking about. There's these organizations that started out having a very good cause: sexism, racism, equality. All of these things had very real beginnings, and they were very necessary and very helpful, and they did a lot of good work. And as they were able to shift society, and as society shifted in their direction, they rightfully, naturally gained a lot of support and a lot of power and a lot of popularity. And so now they're very powerful, wealthy organizations that have effectively won. They have achieved their goal for the most part. There's always going to be edge cases where, sexism and racism and stuff still exists. But what they have to do now is they've realized that sort of like their power and fame and money comes from the existence of their enemy. And now that their enemy is mostly gone, the only way they maintain their power and money and fame is to sort of puppeteer the enemy and sort of go looking for the enemy and fool people into believing that this enemy still exists. And now it's like coming full circle where it seems like they're pushing it so hard that they're creating new enemies. It's like what you're talking about. They're projecting what they want into the world so hard that they're creating it, right?
Absolutely. And don't let them do that to you. Don't let them do that to you. So what is coming up for me in my mind right now is the idea of criticizing by creating, which is a mantra that I came across at Future Frontiers, formerly Voice and Exit. But it's one of the mantras that really just like struck a chord with me because I was very political and always kind of talking about the problems inherent in the system. And sometimes I still do talk about the things that are wrong, but I think a big part of what we need to do when we see a problem is not just to gather together to destroy it, but to also create something out of it. And I think what some of these organizations do is spend a lot of time in the destructive phase, and we forget that we need to build something out of those things and embrace it and receive it. And so that, I think, is like a big problem with some of these organizations, is not being able to shift focus or have more than one focus at the same time. So to the extent that we create organizations right now and collaborations, cooperation right now, where the focus really is on creating something beautiful that people can step into. Part of creating the divisions is creating villains, making people feel bad about where they've been, the thoughts that they've had, and feeling like they have to pay penance, and that can cause you to reject like these new ideas, especially if there's nothing, if no one's providing anything for you to step into. So being really cognizant of that as we move forward. Like, what are we going to give people to actually step into that feels good for them? Because again, if you want to pay attention to the edge case, there's always going to be that. There's always going to be people out there who don't have ideas that you value or that you find useful, and you can spend your time trying to reject those, and seems like a waste of energy and a waste of opportunity, if you ask me. You know?
Yeah, let me go through some of the comments here. Hey, how do I learn about the Dallas Voluntarist community? Search on Facebook for Voluntarists of Dallas Fort Worth. You'll find the Facebook group. That's the best way to get wired in there. Celtic Girl says, I have definitely encountered cops on a power trip, no matter how much you cooperate, and I do believe it's often worse for the black community. See, that's that red flag. It pops in my head every time I hear adjective community. It's like, I don't know. Is that true? What do you think about that?
I've engaged with cops before, and I've had interactions that I really, really didn't like. I like my autonomy, and when someone tells me I have to do something, I'm like, what? and I remember a time when I was with with a boyfriend at the time, and we were on a train car in New York City, and we walked through the car, and apparently that's illegal or it's some kind of, I don't know, but they made us get off the train, and I was like, I like everything in me was vibrating because it felt like such an injustice. Like, why do I have to listen to you? I didn't do anything wrong, right? And you're about to give me a ticket and tell me I need to pay. Yeah, that happens. Okay, here's what I'll say about that. Racism, again, we haven't said racism isn't a thing. It is a thing. And the systems that we have in place put a lot of people who are hurting into contact with a lot of other people. And it allows them to express their biases, express their, like project their traumas and just have negative interactions. I mean, like, who knows? Maybe he's having a bad day and they come into contact with somebody who they don't quite understand. Yes, it is true that can happen. Is it systematic? I don't know that you need to even create a story about it being systematically worse for one group or the other. It's bad for anyone who experiences it, and a lot of people are experiencing that. A lot of people are experiencing police brutality. Look at the videos. It's not just white people. It's not just black people. It's not just Hispanics. It's everybody. So let's actually deal with the source of the problem, which is that these people are put in a position of engaging with with infringing upon their rights to just exist and to make decisions for themselves. Is there a role for peacekeepers or police? Yes, but it is not. But it is fundamentally right now it's out of balance, and that's because there are lawmakers out there just making laws that these people have to enforce. So if you really want to deal with police brutality in all communities, then you get at the root of the problem, which is like there are too many opportunities for these people to engage with people out there in the world who aren't doing, the drug war is a really good example. So like, if you really feel like that's a racist war, well, we don't really have to focus on the fact that it's racist. What we need to focus is on the fact that these are non-violent actors. People are deciding to put things into their bodies, and they're engaging in voluntary trade with other people. And why is it okay that some police officer can come to you and tell you, no, you can't experience this, you can't engage in this trade, you can't experience this this altered perception. Why is that okay? And everybody is a victim of that oppression. Everybody is a victim of that. You know what I mean? So like, that's the point. Why do you need it to be about race? Why does anybody need it to be about race in order to really address it at a fundamental level? And if that's what you need, if that's the motivation that gets you up and gets you going, then sure, but just make sure you don't lose sight of what you're actually trying to do. And that's what I think can be the problem, is that when we start talking about race in the context of police brutality, we start to think that that's more important than the brutality, than just brutality.
Something you said in there made me think about the intro to the show. I meant it as a joke, just like saying black people and then rolling the intro. I found that hilarious because of how absurd it is to try and talk about a topic as broad as black people. But before I opened the show, I sat for, I don't know, a couple minutes. My eyes were closed and I wanted to do the intro that way, but I was worried about how that would be perceived. And I thought about the different intonations I could use when I said black people, just those two words as a joke. And I had to premeditate my intonation, how I said it, everything about that, because there is nothing I've ever said on YouTube that hasn't been taken the wrong way by somebody. And that makes me think of people choose how to take your words, which means that I choose how to take other people's words. You have to think it goes both ways. You have to give people the benefit of the doubt, or you don't. And when you don't, it seems like most of the time when I don't give people the benefit of the doubt, I take them the wrong way. And so when it came down to it, I decided to do the intro that way, come what may, just because I found it hilarious. And if somebody wants to not give me the benefit of the doubt on that joke and assume that somehow that was racist, I guess so be it, guys. I don't know what we do at this point. It's just, I'm tired of that. And so I'm not going to do it anymore, even if I never have a job again.
Be you. I love you for that. Be you. I just want to see you. I don't want to see shadows of you because you're scared to be you, right? I think that is a big part of what we need to do today. And if I can empower anyone who's sitting around thinking a thing and too scared to say it because the internet will descend upon you.
Yeah.
No, be you. Ground yourself in who you, and that's the thing. You know who you are when you're saying that. You know it's a joke. You know it's said. Ground yourself in who you are. Whatever I say, I don't care what anybody has to say about what I say. I could be wrong. We can have a conversation, but I don't care. You're not going to make me feel bad about it. I am grounded in who I am. I know I'm telling you what I think out of love. And so come what may. And I want to feel like that so that we can have honest discussions where we really connect with each other. Because there isn't enough connection, and it's so crazy because we're all so connected now, more connected than we've ever been. There are all these wonderful tools. But what's happening is that some people are using the tool to shut down conversation, to shut down you being you, to try to get you to conform to their view of the world. And we're all feeling that, with everything that's happening on YouTube and Facebook and all of those things, which, by the way, quick plug, is why I'm really happy to be working with Flote, is because, I talked to Kingsley, and one of the things he said to me was that he started Flote because, the internet's supposed to be something else. It's supposed to be the promise of the internet, right? And the promise of the internet is that we do, it should be expansion. And a lot of people are using it in a different way. So
I'm glad you brought that up. Aaron is over in the live comments on we simulcast to Flote as well, and they say this is a great conversation. Thanks, Patrick and Angel. Can you tell us about Flote and your involvement and and how things are going?
Sure thing. I have just come on with Flote as the VP of marketing, which is awesome and interesting. And I'm really happy to be connected with these people. Again, criticize by creating. If you really want to change the world, if you want to offer people something different than some of the old structures which are no longer serving them, then go ahead and do that. And that's what Flote is doing, right? Is giving people an alternative to Facebook to still engage in the social way that we've now grown accustomed to, but protecting the privacies and some of the best parts of what these social media networks has to offer. And that's why I'm really glad to be working with them. And so long as they are committed to that, then like I'm on the team. I'm down for moving forward with them to do that and to provide the best that we can provide and to bring in other people who really want to do that work with us to do that. Come on down. You know what I mean?
We are in this, and I use we after I just finished talking about the red flags of we's. But as voluntarists, we are in a very special moment in history, and we have two media companies that have sprung up as alternatives to the mainstream social media and media publication that are owned and operated and led by voluntarists. What are the chances of that? We have Flote as an alternative social media company that is led by committed to free speech and being an open platform as voluntarists in Flote. And you can check out, I have interviews with them on my Disenthrall channel where I really grill them over the coals with what they would and would not ban. And I think they're the most, permissive is the wrong word, but most committed to free speech than anybody I've talked to. More so than maybe even I would be if I ran a service for people. I would not want certain things to be on the hardware that I owned, and they are way more committed to it than even I would be. And then we also have Library, LBRY, is owned and run by a voluntarist, guys. Like, that is, we are an epic moment in history. Not only do we have alternative, I mean, yeah, we have Gab, but that's basically the Republican Facebook. But we also have voluntarist alternatives. So that excites me. I'm glad that you're, I'm glad that you're involved with them and are helping them out.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, I know, like, if you watch the media, if you're on Facebook, if you're like, it might seem like things are dire, but I am connected in different areas where I just see all of the promise of what there is to come. I see people really working hard to create solutions that connect us, that allow us to be ourselves, that allows us to grow together, to allocate resources in a way that's beneficial for a lot of people. No more scarcity mindset, no more like division. I think we have some really cool opportunities to create a better world. And I don't want to seem like I don't understand some of the realities. I do, I really do. But I think, again, if you focus on those realities, focus on destruction, then that's what you're going to get. I'm down with like hanging out with the builders and inspiring the builders and letting the builders inspire me for like a better tomorrow, for real.
Erin Nakamoto over on Flote Super Chat says, thanks for the $1.50. She says, come see Angel speak at Anarcho Vegas July 19th. What are you going to be speaking about?
Woo-hoo. So I don't want to give too much away, but Erin said to me, I wrote an article called The 5 Peaceful Protests That Will Save the World on the Homestead Guru, and sent that out. And I guess after Erin read it, because I've been working with them on sponsorships, and Erin read it and she said, hey, do you want to speak at Anarcho Vegas? And I was like, who am I to speak at Anarcho Vegas? And that was the immediate thought. And then I thought, wait a minute, that's a perfect speech to give. Who am I? Who am I? But so my speech is, who am I to save the world? And I think it's a question that we all ask ourselves in some respect, right? It might not be save the world, but who am I to da 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 da? And as I thought through the question changed for me, and I want to change the question for y'all too, in the way that it changed for me, and I think it's going to empower you. Yeah, because I feel empowered.
Are the talks there going to be broadcast so that those of us that are unable to make it can see them?
It will be live streamed. Yes, it will. And it will be live streamed on Flote. So if you don't have a Flote account yet, go ahead, set yourself up with one so that you can access all of the amazing talks that are going to happen. There are really good people thinking about the world and, and trying to come up with solutions. So I hope to see all of you guys there. I hope to see you there in the real world. Come out to Vegas, have some fun, but also get down to, like inspiring each other and figuring out how we move forward together and be, have a voice in that.
All right. Angel, I've really appreciated this conversation. It has given me quite a lot to rethink. Not to think about, but to rethink about. And I love that. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about before we go?
What do I want to talk about? I don't know. I like leaving it with that. Like if you're rethinking the way that you're perceiving the world, if any of you are thinking about that, I think that is a really, really good start to creating something beautiful. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to chat with you, because again, like I said, and I want to keep chatting with you. I want to keep chatting with you and anyone else out there who's like really down for being yourself and showing us who you are and what you are.
Yeah, I think the takeaway for me is that I'm going to kind of reevaluate everything to make sure that I'm not sword fighting shadows. I'm going to make sure that I'm angry at things that actually exist. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. It's been awesome. Thanks, Angel, for joining me. And I don't think that actually is going to end my career, but I guess who knows how they're going to take it. But who cares? I'll talk to everybody next time. Peace, love, and anarchy.